What if I told you that one of the most decisive moments of World War II didn't happen on a battlefield, but with a single, completely unauthorized phone call? A call that should have ended a brilliant engineer's career, but instead, it changed the course of the war. This is the story of how one man's gutsy decision to break the rules paved the way for one of history's most audacious revenge missions. And it all started with a problem that, on paper, was flat out impossible to solve.
So here's the puzzle. Put yourself in the shoes of the military planners for a second. You have a target you absolutely have to get. The mission is a 1,000-mile round trip over nothing but open ocean. The problem, your best long-range fighter, the P-38 Lightning, has a maximum range of about 900 miles. You do the math, it just doesn't add up. It's a one-way ticket, so how on earth do you make that happen?
And if that wasn't hard enough, get this. The margin for error was, and I mean this literally, non-existent. After flying for hours over a featureless ocean, with nothing but a compass and a watch to guide them, these pilots had to hit a precise point in the sky within a 60-second window. Think about that. A minute too early, you get spotted. A minute too late, and your target is gone forever. Absolutely insane.
This wasn't just any mission. It had a name, Operation Vengeance. And the target? Well, the target was Admiral Yamamoto, the strategic genius who had planned the attack on Pearl Harbor. So for America, this wasn't just tactical. Oh no, this was deeply personal. And the timing, chillingly deliberate. They chose April 18, 1943, exactly 1 year to the day after the famous Doolittle raid on Tokyo. This was payback.
But here's the twist. The key to pulling off this incredible mission, you're not going to find it in a cockpit or on an aircraft carrier. Nope. To find the real answer, we have to go back in time, 16 months earlier to be exact, to a quiet office in Ohio, late one night. Because the most important battle here wasn't fought with guns, but against a stubborn and deadly idea.
So to really get why this one phone call was so critical, you have to understand the huge systemic problem it was trying to solve. There was this ideology, a dangerous way of thinking that was literally crippling American air power before the U.S. was even fully in the war. It was a doctrine, an official belief that was powerful, persuasive, and dead wrong.
Okay, so let me introduce you to the Bomber Mafia. And no, they weren't actual gangsters, but they were a hugely influential clique of high-ranking officers, and they held a belief that was almost a religion. They were absolutely convinced that massive formations of heavy bombers bristling with machine guns were basically invincible. They believed these flying fortresses could fly anywhere, defend themselves, and win the war all on their own. No help needed, thank you very much.
Their mantra, the phrase they repeated over and over, was this: the bomber will always get through. This sounds great, right? Simple, powerful. But they believed it so fervently that they thought any money or effort spent on anything else, especially long-range fighter planes to protect the bombers, was a complete and utter waste. And this wasn't just an opinion. It became absolute official policy. No long-range fighters, period.
But theories are one thing. The grim reality of combat is another. The doctrine promised invincible bomber fleets. The brutal truth? Unescorted bombers flying deep into enemy territory were getting cut to ribbons. They were being slaughtered. For bomber crew, finishing their 25-mission tour wasn't the norm. It was a miracle. This policy wasn't just flawed, it was a death sentence for thousands of young men.
So you've got this absolute ironclad policy, backed by some of the most powerful generals in the military. It's the law of the land. So who would be brave enough, or maybe crazy enough, to defy it? Who had the foresight to see this disaster unfolding and risk their entire career to do something about it? Well, meet our guy, Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Kelsey. Now, Kelsey wasn't your typical officer. He was a test pilot, yeah, but he was also a brilliant engineer with a degree from MIT. As the head of fighter projects, he understood these planes inside and out, and he saw the huge, fatal flaw in the bomber mafia's logic. He knew, with absolute certainty, that American pilots would need fighters that could go the distance, and he knew the official doctrine was going to stop that from ever happening.
And if you look at this timeline, you can just feel the pressure building. Kelsey had been pushing for the P-38 since way back in '37, but by '41, the bomber mafia's doctrine is law. It specifically forbids developing what they needed most, external fuel tanks. So here we are, November 1941, just weeks before Pearl Harbor. Kelsey knows a massive war is coming, and he knows if he does nothing, his pilots are being sent into a fight with one hand tied behind their backs. So he picks up the phone.
That call was to his contacts over at Lockheed. And what he proposed was pure, career-ending insubordination. The deal was this: no paper trail, no official orders, nothing in writing, just a secret off-the-books agreement. Lockheed would quietly modify the next 100 P-38s coming off the production line, adding the plumbing and hardpoints needed for external fuel tanks. And if anyone found out, the blame would fall squarely on Kelsey. A court-martial, the end of his career, everything. It was all on him. He took the gamble.
Okay, now let's flash forward 16 months. We're back in the Pacific, back to that impossible mission. Because of that one illegal phone call, a secret capability now exists. A small handful of P-38s have a feature that officially shouldn't even be possible, and it's a capability the mission planners desperately need, even if they have no idea how they got it. All the pieces were now on the board.
So here's how it all came together, like a perfect heist. First, the intel. American codebreakers get a golden ticket, an intercepted Japanese message with Yamamoto's entire flight plan. It's a once-in-a-war opportunity. But then, the problem. The math just doesn't work. And then, the solution. Someone discovers that a few of their P-38s have these strange, undocumented fittings for external fuel tanks. Benjamin Kelsey's secret gamble.
What these pilots did next was just a staggering feat of airmanship. The leader, Major John Mitchell, was a navigation genius. He led this flight of 16 P-38s for over 2 hours, flying just 50 feet, 50, off the water to stay below Japanese radar. No radio. Total silence. All they had to guide them was a compass, their airspeed, and a wristwatch. Just imagine that. One tiny mistake, and the whole thing is for nothing.
So after 2 hours of pure dead reckoning over the empty ocean, Mitchell sees land. It's the coast of Bougainville. He glances at his watch, 9:33 a.m. They're a minute early. He leads his flight in a slow, calculated turn, and then, right at 9:34 a.m., precisely on schedule, there they are. 2 Japanese bombers with their fighter escort descending for landing. Mitchell had navigated for hundreds of miles and arrived with an accuracy of less than 60 seconds. Unbelievable.
That's the signal. The P-38s drop their now empty external tanks, the very tanks that made the mission possible, and they pounce. Now, for years, there was some debate about who got the final shots, but the historical evidence is now clear. Lieutenant Rex Barber chased Yamamoto's bomber down to the treetops, hammering it with his cannons until it crashed into the jungle below. Vengeance was complete.
It's an incredible story, right? Straight out of a movie. But the real legacy of Benjamin Kelsey's phone call is so much bigger than this one mission. His single act of defiance didn't just take a key player off the board. It fundamentally changed the entire air war, and it gives us a blueprint for how innovation really happens. And let's not forget the human cost of that flawed doctrine. Just look at these odds. Before long-range escorts, a bomber crew's chance of surviving a tour of duty was terrifyingly low. It was a miracle to make it through. But once fighters like the P-38 and the legendary P-51 Mustang got those drop tanks and could stay with the bombers all the way there and all the way back, the odds flipped. Survival went from a miracle to probable. Kelsey's decisions saved thousands upon thousands of lives. You can just trace the ripple effect, can't you? It's so clear. You start with a rigid, flawed idea at the top that creates a deadly problem. Then, one person on the inside, an expert who knows better, quietly breaks the rules. That one act creates a secret solution that makes an impossible mission possible. That mission leads to a huge strategic victory, which in turn revolutionizes warfare and, most importantly, saves countless lives. It's an incredible chain of events.
And don't for a second think this is just some dusty old history lesson. The drop tank wasn't just a WW2 trick. Look at a modern fighter jet today, an F-15, an F-16, even the stealthy F-35. What do you see hanging under their wings on long missions? Yep, external fuel tanks. 80 years later, the core principle that Benjamin Kelsey risked his career for is still absolutely essential. His forbidden idea became standard procedure.
And maybe that's the real blueprint here, the most powerful lesson. True progress, game-changing innovation. It doesn't always come from a grand strategy memo handed down from the corner office. Often, it comes from the people on the front lines, the engineers, the operators, the ones who see that the official plan is broken and have the quiet courage to do something about it, no matter the personal risk.
Because this story is about more than just airplanes. It's a universal truth. Every company, every industry, every team has its own bomber mafia. It's that piece of conventional wisdom, that way we've always done things, that everyone accepts without question, even when it's causing real problems. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What's the flawed official doctrine in your world? And does it need its own Benjamin Kelsey to make that call?